Hi there, it's nice to meet you. Welcome to our YouTube channel. My name is Abraham. I'm an educational consultant at Edward Consulting, and our topic for today is 5 tips for selecting the right school for your study abroad. I extremely love this topic because I believe that when you are applying to schools, whether you're just doing an application or you're applying for scholarships, it's important that the school selection is right. Oftentimes, when the school selection goes wrong, the likelihood of the application failing, I would say it's like a 90%. A lot of times, based on my experience, there are times you've advised clients, hey, don't go with this school. They don't listen. They're like, oh, I want to apply to Harvard, I want to apply to Oxford, and then it doesn't go well. And at the end of the day, we're both looking at each other. But the purpose of this video, right, is for us to deep dive into deep dive right into the several aspects of things you should look out for that are important for your school selection. So let's go. The first thing I would say would be to check the requirements. This is the basics. A lot of people skip and allows them to the applications to go bad. So checking the requirements means, when you go on Google, you're looking at a school, you would always see admission requirements or application requirements, or some schools might just call it admissions, right? And when you're checking the requirements, it's not just to see what is the school asking for. It is more about how does my profile fit into what they're asking for. So for example, a school can say the minimum expected requirements for this program is a second class upper. However, you have a second class lower, right? This does not mean you can't apply to the school. It just means you should start thinking of what can I do can to complement my profile, to compensate for my grades that can now make me competitive for this program. So you not having a second class offer in such case does not mean you are not eligible for the program. That's just your minimum requirements, but then there could be other ways you can use to compensate. One, maybe through your work experience. Two, could be through taking a standardized exam like GRE or the GMAT exam, right? And one of the things I tell people when you are looking at the requirements of the school, because people may come and say, oh, I want to apply to Harvard, I want to apply to Oxford, London Business School, MIT, INSEAD, and the likes, right? But when you're checking the requirements, it's also good to look at the profile of their class. A lot of schools do have the class profile where, for example, they might say people admitted to this program usually would have 5 years experience in this field or more, which means if you're applying to that program with 2 years experience, it does not mean you can't get in. It's just going to be more competitive for you, right? So you are applying to that program, you need to make sure that you have other things that can back up your application. So in such cases, you want to take the GRE to show that you are still a strong fit even when it's not required, right? Checking the requirements could also be that you might be overqualified for the program. There are certain master's programs, for example, a master's in management. Not all schools will just take anybody for a master's in management. There are some cases where you can be overqualified because the school prefers people that are early career professionals, which means they have 1 year experience, 2 years experience, or 3 years experience at the maximum. And then your experience is like 5+ years, but you really want to do a master's in management. What do you do in that case? You have to keep looking for a school that aligns with that, a school that is not particular about the years of experience for you to apply to a master's in management, right? For another thing about checking the requirements, if a school requires an exam, or if they tell you this exam is not required, but it will be considered if you take it, my dear, I would advise you to take that exam, because there's going to be people that will take that exam, and which means it's going to become more competitive for you. One thing schools always do is they compare, and I'm not just talking about um, application process, I'm talking about the scholarships. In fact, schools compare. Your application can be strong on its own, but then when they begin to compare with other people that may have test scores that you refuse to take, when they begin to compare with other people that have much more work experience than you do, or higher GPAs, CGPAs than you do, how then do you contest in that kind of situation? And this is where applying to multiple schools is very necessary, which I will get to as one of the points. The second tip, the second point would be for you to look beyond the ranking. Look beyond ranking. I always tell people it's not only top 10 schools you should apply to, it's not only top 10 schools. Because when you're looking only at ranking, it's as if you don't get into Harvard, you will not meet your career goals. If you don't get into London Business School, you will not achieve your goals. No, it shouldn't be about that, right? Looking beyond ranking also entails you thinking about, does this school align with my career goal? Let's take for example, you have a post MBA goal, you want to maybe get into private equity, you want to get into consulting, but then you are going to a school that is more you want to get to consulting, sorry, but then you are going to a school that is more focused or invested in your private equity. It doesn't mean the school cannot help you, but then there's another school that would help you better because they have more resources in the field you want to be in. Or let's say you want to study a master's in public policy or international development. Looking beyond the ranking also entails what are the experiential learning opportunities, what are the resources, what are the connections or networking opportunities this program or this school provides for me that can help me get to my post career goal. So all these things are necessary for you to factor into consideration when you are talking about when you are looking beyond the ranking. And looking beyond ranking doesn't mean you should apply to, like, let me say, top 500 schools. You can still apply to the top 50 school that is still very good. Yeah, you can get quality education. So one thing I always would encourage people to do is speak to current students or alumni. Whichever school you are thinking of applying to, if you go on LinkedIn, look out, just search the name of the school, you see their alumni and current students. People like to put the names of the schools in their bio on LinkedIn. Go there, connect to them, ask them about the school, and you will get to understand. That there are other things you can benefit from the school, and it's not just about ranking, right? So most importantly, from this particular point, I would say should be think about how the school can support you, how the school can help you. Which now gets me to my next point. Think about funding. People apply to schools with no plan, don't plan whatsoever of funding. I would say my years of experience doing this, I have spoken to maybe if not more than 1,000 people, and I've met a lot of people that they apply to schools, but they're not even thinking of how they will fund the program. Some of them will say, God will do it. Yes, God will do it, but how are you not working without? How are you try to express faith with how it works, right? So for me, it's very important that when you are selecting a school, when you go online, you do your research, these are the schools you want to apply for. You don't check if they have scholarships. You don't check if they are partnered with any loan organizations where you can get a loan. So what's your plan to fund that program, my dear? There's no plan. So then they come to me like I'm a magician and say, what can you do for what can I do? I'm sorry, what can I do? You see, so it's very important that you need to check the scholarships the school has. Not just checking the scholarship. How much is this scholarship? Right? How much if I get the maximum amount the school is offering, what's the deficit going to be like for me? How much am I able to cover? Are there loan organizations that support this school where even though I don't get a full scholarship, or even if I get a full scholarship, I can take a loan to cover my living expenses, or if I don't get a full scholarship, I can use a loan to cover the deficit together with my savings. So financial planning is very, very important when you're studying abroad. It's extremely important, and this is why people go abroad and then they get stuck because they didn't financially plan for this. Well, yes, you want to Japan, you want to go to this country, you want to work here and work there, right? It's important that you can plan yourself financially. So when you're applying to a school, check there's always a scholarship section of each program. Check for the internal scholarships, the ones that comes directly from the schools. Check for the external scholarships, the ones that come from this external organizations that partner with the schools. For example, MasterCard is an external scholarship. This I'm just giving an example. It's not available to all the schools and programs. right? So this is very important. See, do I qualify for these scholarships? While school may have a list of scholarships, does not mean you are qualified for everything. Look at the ones you are qualified for. There might be some that are just for women. They might just say women in STEM, right? In some cases, they might just prioritize Africans. In some cases, they are prioritizing the people from a certain field. For example, recently had a scholarship where other people need get any scholarship from that school, but one person got, and she was even the last to apply. And she got it because she has a pharmaceutical background. So these are the things that are very important. It's not a one size fits all. The school selection is very important. It's not a one size fits all. Because something works for someone does not mean it's going to work for you. People have come to me, oh, you got the scholarship for my friend. That does not mean you're going to get the scholarship. And it does not mean you are not good enough. It just means it's not tailor made for you. Right? So this is very important. Funding is very important because at Edward Consulting, our primary objective is to secure scholarships for our clients. And when people see this, they start to think that we're magicians, but we're not magicians. We are putting in, submitting strong applications. It's important that we can also make sure the school selection is done well. This also would lead to my fourth point. My fourth point being getting your priorities right. So getting your priorities right simply is a very straightforward point. You cannot say you want to buy, let me say, pastries, and then you are going to a bookstore. Right? You won't find it there. So what I'm simply saying is people come, well, I want to apply to this school, and I also want to get a full tuition scholarship. So how is it going to work? Because this school, when we tell them this school that are targeted, they don't typically give full scholarships, or they don't give, they don't even have it. But this is your, this is your, do or die school. You're not willing to negotiate, but at the same time you want a full scholarship. So how is that going to work? You see, there needs to be a balance when it comes to school selection. What's your priority? Is your priority to get full scholarship, or you just want to apply to the school of your dreams? Right? I always believe and tell people there should be a balance, right? There should be a balance where, while yes, I want to get this quality education, I can't get this quality education if I don't get scholarships. So there are other schools, whether on par or whether on par on the same level as the school you are targeting, that may have better funding opportunities for you, and that is what you want to choose. That is important for you to get your priorities straight. And I've had people, mind you, that say, well, I'm not particular about the scholarship. If I get, even if it's 20,000, I'll take a loan. They don't mind. And that's their priority, and it's fine, but it's important that you can get your priorities straight. That's why I said it ties to the previous point of think about funding. If your priority is funding and you're not researching funding before starting your application, then it's not really your priority, right? And then my last point for today would be aligning it with your career goals. It's important that each school is aligned with your goals. Like I said earlier, you can't be wanting to do consulting and then you're going to a school that is more focused on investment banking, or vice versa. There are some schools where every program, depending on the program you are going for, will be able to help you. You want to make sure that you are doing it. You want to make sure that you are going to the program where you can get the most for your career goals. Same thing for engineering. If you are going to if you are applying to a school that is not really strongly focused in your area of engineering, whether it's civil engineering, mechanical engineering, how effectively will that school support you towards your career goals? So these are things that we need to think about when we are preparing our school selection. While this is not part of, it was not part of my points, it was not part of things I plan to say. One additional bonus point I will give you is that when you are doing your school selection, it's important that you apply to multiple schools. It's very important. And that's while I'm saying you want to apply to your dream school is not offering you funding, you can still apply. But at the same time, you should have other schools you're applying to, and that's what we call a combination of rich and safety schools. So the explanation of rich and safety schools is simply that, when you say rich, REACH, when you say rich schools, just like the name implies, you are reaching for it, you are aiming for it, right? So a school like Harvard, because you know how prestigious Harvard is, how competitive the application process will be, it's you trying to attain that goal of getting to Harvard. So you're basically reaching for it, and in simple, that's the simple term, but the explanation is that it's a school where the requirements are above your own profile. So let's say Harvard, yes, you have a first class, you have a good GRE score, or even if you don't have, if it's not required, depending on the program you're applying for, you have rich work experience. There would always be people that have stronger GPAs or GRE scores or better work experience than you do. So ultimately it becomes competitive for you, and these are the things you want to have in mind. So it's important you have rich and safety options when you're applying to schools. And safety does not necessarily mean safe. Saying something is safe does not mean you are guaranteed to get into the program. Because people sometimes will come and be asking me, is this my safety score? Okay, that means for sure this one is sure. No, it's not sure. It's not sure. Safety just means your profile is a bit higher than the minimum academic requirements, or minimum requirements of that program or of that school, depending on what you're applying for, right? But the essence of having rich and safety schools is that while you are aiming to get into X school, there should be safer options that you know that there's a higher chance of me getting into this program than to this one I'm initially targeting. So that's why there needs to be a balance when it comes to your school selection. Typically, would advise people to apply to nothing less than 4 schools, depending on the schools you are targeting, because again, when you can have this combination, you have different options to choose from. Another good thing, when you have your offers, let's say you get into all the programs, the scholarships, you can always negotiate funding. You tell one school, hey, I really want to come to your school, but this your peer school is offering me this amount, will you increase your funding or not? Let me say something. Schools most times they budge to that because they don't want to lose it to their competitor, so they're able to increase the scholarships for you, right? So these are the key things that you should think about, you should consider when preparing your school selection for your program. Whether you're applying for an MBA, a master's program, a PhD program, an undergraduate program, all these apply to you, right? And if you need support with school selection, if you need support with personalized assessments, please do not hesitate to reach out to us by clicking the link in our bio or in this post to book a consultation. Please like, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we look forward to hearing from you and helping you achieve your educational goals. Thank you.